Throughout WWE history, WWE have been prone to take shots at their competition. From WCW to AEW, WWE, well, specifically Vince McMahon, has taken great pleasure in mocking any competition. Some shots are just funny, whereas some direct shots actually led to a ton of backlash. But which ones were they? Well, join us now as Wrestlelamia looks at 10 times WWE insulted other wrestling promotions. Be sure to subscribe and hit that notification bell for daily wrestling videos, and follow us on Facebook for exclusive lists. Also check out Wrestlelamia.co.uk and our non-wrestling channel, Incredible. Number 10. X-Pac's return promo. In 1997, Sean Waltman went down with a serious neck injury, and WCW Vice President Eric Bischoff controversially decided to fire him. This decision received extensive criticism, as firing Waltman was predominantly done to send a message to Scott Hall and Kevin Nash, whose backstage influence was seen as a threat to Bischoff. Waltman rejoined WWE in 1998, and he would now be known as X-Pac. X-Pac would join forces with Triple H and D-Generation X, and his return promo took some serious shots at WCW. X-Pac would criticize Hogan, and he would claim that Hall and Nash would be standing next to him if they weren't being held hostage by WCW. This promo rattled WCW, as it was reported at the time that Hall and Nash wanted out, and X-Pac seemed to confirm these rumors in his promo. Number 9. Drew McIntyre indirectly references AEW. AEW's exploding barbed wire deathmatch wasn't exactly AEW's finest hour. It was heavily mocked and ridiculed, and even WWE decided to reference the botched spectacle. As just days after the incident, Drew McIntyre cut a promo on Raw, and one certain line was clearly a dig at AEW. McIntyre would state, "When you make a guarantee and you don't deliver, fans get upset and sparks fly." Fans were quick to realize what McIntyre was referencing, and most found it humorous. McIntyre would claim that the line in his promo had nothing to do with AEW and it was purely a coincidence, but fans still to this day don't believe the former WWE champion. Number 8. The Undertaker references AJ Styles' TNA run. The Undertaker's final ever feud in WWE was an acclaimed rivalry with AJ Styles. This feud broke down the established barriers of kayfabe and featured a number of references to both the dead man's and AJ's personal lives. The Undertaker would even ridicule AJ's time in TNA during a promo segment, as Taker declared that AJ had been happy being a big fish in a small pond because he knew he didn't have what it took to face WWE legends. This was a direct reference to AJ's extensive TNA run, and it was a great way to add some continuity into his backstory. The rivalry between the two would eventually culminate in a boneyard match at WrestleMania 36 in what would be the Dead Man's final WWE match to date. Number 7. Randy Orton mentions Dixie Carter. The Dead Man isn't the only WWE superstar to reference AJ Styles' time in TNA, as Randy Orton also took a shot back in 2019. Orton and AJ were feuding on the road to WrestleMania 35, and Orton would cut a promo on SmackDown which would directly reference AJ, TNA, and Dixie Carter. Orton would state, "In 2005, AJ was down in Florida getting a tan with Dixie Carter, while I was here facing The Undertaker at WrestleMania." Carter actually found great humor in Orton's comments, and she would respond via Twitter by tweeting, "AJ Styles and I never had to tan as we were always golden. My historical recollection is different than yours, Randy Orton." Number 6. Fake Diesel and Fake Razor Ramon. Back in '96, Diesel and Razor Ramon just jumped ship to WCW, leaving WWE without two of their biggest stars. Vince McMahon had the naive belief that he could hire different wrestlers to portray the gimmicks. WWE would use Glenn Jacobs for the role of Diesel, but despite Jacobs' talent, the gimmick died instantly. Fans were kinda confused as to why a new wrestler was suddenly pretending to be Diesel. It was apparent as Jacobs continued to portray Diesel 2.0, and it was done to mock Nash as well as WCW, but it completely failed and just exposed WWE for being petty. Thankfully for Jacobs, his next gimmick would find him more success as he would debut as the Demonic Kane in 1997. But as well as fake Diesel debuting in '96, they also decided to debut a fake version of Razor Ramon at the same time. The fake Ramon would be played by Rick Bogner, who had a brief stint in ECW. This version of Ramon was somehow even worse than the fake Diesel. Bogner's version of Ramon was more comedic, and it was incredibly cringe to witness live. The fake Razor won several matches on TV and was even featured on pay-per-view during the time, so it was clear that McMahon thought the change was working. Eventually, the two author gimmicks would be dropped after a few months as McMahon realized that his outlandish idea was never going to work and he needed to focus on trying to build new stars. Number 5. Blood and Guts. In the summer of 2019, during a stockholders conference call, Vince McMahon would directly refer to AEW when discussing how the WWE product was going to change. McMahon would state, "We're going to be a bit edgier, but we'll remain in the PG environment. We're not going back to the Attitude Era, blood and guts, something you might see with a new competitor." The backlash to the comment was severe, and former AEW executive Cody Rhodes responded in a promo by saying, "Recently there were some very public comments made about us where we were referred to as blood and guts. Blood and guts. And it was said with such a braggart candor that you would think that the person saying it felt like they were bulletproof. But I wonder before they said it if they tasted their own words before they spit them out. Because the entirety of our business is built on blood and guts. Every man or woman who's ever stepped foot in the ring, regardless of race, color, creed, political affiliation, sexual identity, has felt blood and guts and passion. Because if we don't care, they don't care. So if you're saying we're blood and guts, I say you bet your ass we're blood and guts." AEW would brand a match type based directly on McMahon's comments, and the Blood and Guts match would debut in 2021 and has been a yearly staple for AEW ever since. Number 4. Billionaire Ted. During the mid-90s, instead of focusing on WWE and making the product as good as it could possibly be, Vince McMahon was focused on taking as many shots as possible at WCW. These segments presented Turner in a negative light and often mocked the ages of former WWE talent such as Hulk Hogan and Macho Man Randy Savage. The segments were loathed by USA Network, and in the end, the USA Network president actually got involved and cancelled the segments. He believed that they crossed a line and had gone from parody to McMahon just showing his personal dislike for WCW on screen. Number 3. Gillberg. One of the most notorious characters of the Attitude Era was Gillberg. Gillberg was a Goldberg parody and was designed to mock WCW's presentation of their hottest star. The character would mock virtually every aspect of Goldberg, including his entrance, and they would even use pre-recorded chants of Gillberg to mock the urban legend that WCW used fake crowd noise. Gillberg would also use the catchphrase, "Who's first?" in reference to Goldberg's catchphrase, "Who's next?" It was a funny gimmick, and the man behind the gimmick, Dwayne Gill, did a fantastic job at the parody. The gimmick didn't go down well with Goldberg himself, as on the WWE Network show Ruthless Aggression, Goldberg would claim that he wanted to kill Gillberg due to how much he hated it. Number 2. I hear TNA is hiring. The tag match at WrestleMania 34, which pitted Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn versus Daniel Bryan and Shane McMahon, had a stipulation that if Owens and Zayn won, they would become members of the SmackDown roster. The duo had been previously fired by McMahon months prior and were fighting for their jobs. On the next night on Raw, WWE aired a segment which involved Kurt Angle being interrupted by the duo. Owens and Zayn requested that Angle sign them to Raw, and Angle simply replied, "Well, my tag division is full, but I hear TNA is hiring." Nobody saw that line coming, and it was a brilliant way to light social media on fire. And number 1, Triple H's Hall of Fame speech. The 2019 WWE Hall of Fame was notable for a number of reasons, but perhaps the most infamous of these reasons was when Triple H referred to AEW as a pissant company. This remark came during DX's induction speech. AEW talent Billy Gunn joked that Vince McMahon can't fire him, and this is when the game chimed in by saying, "Billy, let's be honest, he'll buy that pissant company just to fire you again." Shawn Michaels would also reference AEW by saying, "You can always count on old Billy Gunn to overpromise and underdeliver." Well, we appreciate you being out here and being all in. Triple H received massive backlash for the comment both by AEW fans and talent. Talent such as Cody Rhodes and Jim Ross would criticize the game's comments, and it was clear that Triple H didn't expect such a hostile reaction. But there you have it folks, 10 times WWE insulted other wrestling promotions. Be sure to leave your comments down below, and I'll see you next time with some more wrestling content.